The White House is defending President Trump's recent comments about former aide Omarosa Manigault Newman. On Twitter yesterday morning, President Trump lashed out, calling Omarosa a dog, among other things. Here's what the press secretary had to say when she was asked about it yesterday.
The president has said similar things about a number of individuals, certainly that are not African American or any other minority. I can simply talk to you about the policies and the person that the president is. I think if, again, the person that a lot of his critics say he is, certainly wouldn't have been in business with him for decades. Certainly you wouldn't have had Bill and Hillary Clinton. They attended his wedding. I think that he has made a number of comments about plenty of people, and to try to single that out to one group is frankly silly, because I think if you did a comparison, he's probably got a lot more nasty things out there about some other people.
So, Joe, the president has, in fact, called many people dogs, African-American and white people, Mitt Romney, Steve Bannon, among many others. But the defense from the White House press secretary is that he says this stuff about everybody. He calls everybody a dog, and that's supposed to be a helpful way of explaining what he said about Omarosa.
Yeah, which, of course, feeds into, again, what the article that we read from yesterday, from 2011, where you try to dehumanize your political opponents. And that's the first step in many steps to autocracies, totalitarianism, and horrors. Nobody's suggesting that Donald Trump is going to succeed in America. But, you know, we were talking during the break, Willie. I thought it was one of those things during the break. I wish it was on the air. But we were talking about, the Rev was talking about how Donald Trump hung out with a lot of boxers, with a lot of hip hop artists that would hang out with him in Atlantic City. And we noticed early in the campaign, Jay-Z, and even late in the campaign, if a hip-hop artist decided they were going to support Donald Trump, they were always or Hillary Clinton, they were always seemed careful to say, hey, I got nothing against Donald Trump, I got nothing against Donald Trump. And it was sort of a head-scratcher. But that was the case.
Yeah, I mean, Rev, you know better than anyone.
Well, no,
the circle he ran with Don King and Mike Tyson and those guys.
Because, first of all, let's not act like he just wanted to because of social reasons. He was in that business. He was in the casino business. He could not appeal to a large consumer base in Atlantic City without boxing. So he needed Don King, he needed Tyson, he needed the hip-hoppers. That's who filled the casinos for him. So he would socialize with them. And being that I knew a lot of them, grew up with, you know, Spike and that crowd, I would always see him at the events. He was at Mike Tyson's housewarming when I got there. I mean, this was the crowd he hung out with. So they were comfortable with him, never realizing that he had these real inside kind of biases that we knew coming from Brooklyn. We knew the Queens white guys and Howard Beach didn't like us, but you never associated him with that because of the hangout factor until you dated his sister and he started saying, wait a minute, and started using the N-word behind your back. That's the kind of guy Trump reminds me of, that, you know, we can go to school together, but wait a minute, I saw you looking at my sister. Now we start understanding who we really are.
I'm a Queens guy, so don't put me in that group.
I wasn't pointing at you. I was pointing at Trump, the picture behind you.
You always use a great metaphor. Trump, he's a day trader. Let's not mistake the fact that Trump was cozying up to various prominent African Americans in the entertainment and boxing community. It was a transaction.
Right.
This was not a man who was colorless, and he's colorless.
He never was on a march for freedom and justice.
But, you know, and Joe, yes, you say which is worse, if he's truly a bigot or if he's playing a bigot, and they're both reprehensible. But I just remember in my conversation about the birther when we were on the phone that there was a chip missing, that he could not, beyond the fact that that could come out of him, he just could not comprehend the race piece of that. It was just not in his, there was no empathetic piece of DNA gene in there that even if he didn't intend it, what it could seem like. And whether that was the beginning of showing who he truly was, and I agree with the Reverend, but he certainly has not walked back one step forward, one step.
Well, no, and it wasn't just boxers and hip hop artists that he socialized with. He dated black women.
Yeah.
As you were saying before, Rev and Gene, I've got to say the most troubling part of all of this, about his racism and his bigotry, is that just like when his friendships with hip-hop artists and boxers were transactional, now he's friends and apologizes for white nationalists and neo-Nazis, and that's just as transactional. I mean, nobody giving Donald Trump a pass. This is me saying I believe he is a depraved human being who will do anything to get ahead that day, because he is nothing more than a day trader.
Well, he is that. I mean, he's a complicated person. I think he sure sounds sincere to me. Especially one thing he sounds really, really sincere about. More than the racism against African Americans, frankly, is the racism against Latinos, particularly dark-skinned Latinos from Central America, from Mexico. He has a thing about the browning of America that is, I think, quite genuine. I think he's totally in line with Jeff Sessions and others on that. But one other thing I will point out, which is, from my youth, I always keep in mind that, Strom Thurmond was a genuine racist, yet he has a black daughter. He had a black daughter. So it's not, this is not unheard of.
Well, slave owners, slave owners had children with their slaves.
It's gone, though, Al, the opposite direction. Donald Trump was a Democrat his entire life. He gave money to the DNC. He gave money to Nancy Pelosi. He gave money to Chuck Schumer. He gave money to Hillary Clinton. He went to Hillary Clinton's wedding. And then suddenly, in 2011, I know he ran ads against the Central Park Five, but behind closed doors, he became that way in 2011 when he decided he wanted to win the Republican National Committee's endorsement.
No, but that's why I think you and Donnie are correct when you say he's transactional. He didn't believe it when he was Democrat or was coming around many of us, like our conventions at National Action Network. And I don't know what he believes now. I believe he believes in Donald Trump, but I believe that Donald Trump has certain biases that he cannot get over. Because if any of those relationships were not transactional, he'd be talking to people saying, why are blacks offended by me? Why are women offended? He doesn't have those kind of relationships because he doesn't have that kind of sensitivity. It's all day trading, like you said, and tomorrow's another day and I'll trade with somebody else. And you cannot do that as president and leader of the free world and really bring the country forward.
Joe, the birther issue for President Trump and then Donald Trump may have started as a way into politics, but let's be clear, and I think everyone at this table who talked would vouch for it, he meant it on the birther issue. When you talked to him privately, he would not let you get off the phone for 30 minutes, 45 minutes as he explained obscure details of an advertisement put in the Honolulu Advertiser. Why would you do that if it was
He was
real?
obsessed with it.
He was obsessed with it, and whether or not he believed it at the beginning, he certainly believed it by the end.
You know who he was obsessed with then and now? He was obsessed with Barack Obama. Barack Obama drove him crazy then. Barack Obama drives him crazy now. Barack Obama, the mention of the name gets him out of his game. And what he told me and what he later basically admitted it publicly, that he believed that Barack Obama lied on his application to Harvard and said that he was born in Kenya. And he wanted to out Barack Obama and embarrass him. Think of, we got to go to break, but think of all the ways that a retired president has still caused Donald Trump to make one mistake after another mistake after another mistake that's leading to his downfall. It's really pretty remarkable.
It happened again yesterday, Joe. It happened again in the briefing room when they misstated President Obama's African-American employment numbers, but we'll get into that in a minute because the control room's screaming in our ears.
Yeah, okay. Coming up, Sarah Huckabee Sanders. She claims it's common for White House staffers to have non-disclosure agreements. Really? But she wouldn't say whether she signed one herself. That's ahead. and of course much more. We'll just sort of say what we want to say, go where we want to go when Morning Joe returns. Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.